While most of us are big fans of Spider-Man, he isn't always the most popular of heroes among his fellow colleagues in the superhero community. Join us to find out which heroes at times simply cannot stand the web crawler. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda, and this is the top 10 superheroes who hate Spider-Man. Number 10. Emma Frost. Hate is a pretty strong word here. However, it does seem that Emma Frost has at least been greatly annoyed by Spider-Man in the past. During the second annual Hellfire Gala on Krakoa, Spider-Man, who was a guest at the gala, ran out and ended up starting a fight with another mutant. While looking out at this altercation, Emma remarked, "Tisk, you really can't take Spider-Man anywhere, can you?" And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like button? Number 9. Kane Parker. When it comes to the word hate, I feel the need somewhat to elaborate on its use here. Hate for me has always been a strong word to use, and one I'm often cautious to use in my own personal everyday life, even when talking about fictional characters and stories. Actually, especially when talking about fictional characters and stories. I tend to reserve the word hate for real-world events that are unbelievably abhorrent. That being said, people seem to love this word on some platforms, and I know for most out there, this word is one that simply can be used as an alternative for disliking, disagreeing, being annoyed by, or, fighting someone. So with that in mind, take its use here with a grain of salt and let's dive further in. Kane and Peter have a complicated relationship, and that's putting it lightly. While on one hand, they're both cut from the same cloth, with Kane being the first clone of Peter to have been created by the Jackal villain Miles Warren, Kane's life has also been filled with pain and, a lot of torment. And Kane has also blamed Peter for that, which honestly kinda makes some sense. I mean, without Peter, Kane wouldn't even exist after all. Kane Parker is also an interesting one to include on this list, as he initially started out as somewhat of a villain who Spider-Man wanted to stop because Kane is not really against killing those who get in his way. Over the years though, their relationship has only gotten better, and Kane moved from initial antagonist in appearance to actually becoming a hero in his own right. As a hero, he also adopted the name Peter's other main clone Ben Reilly had once used, Scarlet Spider. Number 8. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange and Spider-Man in the comics get along pretty well. However, in the MCU, maybe not so much. In No Way Home, Strange did endeavor to help Peter by making the world forget the secret identity of Spider-Man. Unfortunately, this did not go quite according to plan, as Peter's constant amendments to Stephen's spell caused it to go haywire, resulting in them cracking open the multiverse. Villains from all previous Spider-Man film franchise universes as a result spilled into their world, and when Strange asked Spider-Man and his friends to help with rounding them up so that Strange might seal the breach and send all these villains back home to return to their, well, pretty terrible fates, where they'd ultimately end up dead, Peter decided to go rogue and fight against Doctor Strange, as he believed the villains deserved a chance for redemption. In the end, Strange and Spider-Man still ended up working together to ultimately seal the breach and return everyone back home. But they definitely were not seeing eye to eye for quite a while there, with Strange and Spider-Man at one point even fighting against one another. Number 7. Captain America. This one might surprise you to hear, but at the end of the day, while these two may often work side by side and are both heroes, that doesn't mean that they always get along. Sometimes Spider-Man's attitude and more impulsive behavior bothers Captain America, which leads to some conflicts between them. There's also the fact that Spider-Man is more of a Tony Stark fan than a Steve Rogers fan, as was made pretty evident, at least initially, during the beginning of Civil War I. And while it doesn't feel like that long ago that Cap was actually helping Peter recover after being left briefly comatose after a fight with the UFOs, even more recently in issue number 23 of Amazing Spider-Man, Cap literally takes a punch and a shield bash, with his own shield no less, from a frustrated Peter. So yeah, I can't imagine he's always the biggest Spider-Man fan. Number 6. Akihiro. I have to imagine being at last year's Hellfire Gala with both of these two present there would be kinda awkward considering their history. One of the only interactions I know of with these two heroes was from back when Akihiro was known as Dawkins, when he was much more of a bad boy. Not to say that he still isn't one now. He might be a hero, but definitely still a bad boy. When Spider-Man and Akihiro met back in the day, it was as enemies. Spider-Man had infiltrated the Dark Avengers by pretending to be Mac Gargan, but was sniffed out by Dawkins, who was on the team, and the the two literally fought one another. Daken also gave Spider-Man a bit of a run for his money before being knocked out by the web slinger. And while at the time Daken was a villain, he is now established as an anti-hero, at the very least, in the current X-Men Krakoan era, which is why I'm gonna count him here. Number 5. Proteus. Well, I don't think there is long-standing animosity between these two. In fact, I don't even think they've really interacted all that much over the course of their histories in comics. They did have a bit of a tussle at last year's Hellfire Gala, the 2022 Hellfire Gala. Here, Spider-Man at one point punched Proteus while attending as an esteemed guest. Not a great look, considering Proteus is a member of Krakoa's coveted Five, the 5 mutants who are solely responsible for resurrecting those mutants who have fallen. Spider-Man saw Proteus having an argument with MJ, but what he didn't know was that MJ's body was actually being held hostage and used by the now villainous Moira McTaggart, who also was recently revealed to have been a mutant all along. In the end, Spider-Man teamed up with Wolverine to save MJ, but even all that doesn't really change the fact or really justify Spider-Man completely just punching Proteus in the face, who at the time was really just talking to his evil, body-snatching mom, Moira. Number 4. Daredevil. While you would think these two street-level heroes would get along swimmingly since they're both fighting crime in the same city, New York, they actually clash more than you'd think. While Dee and Spidey have teamed up on multiple occasions, they've also fought each other on multiple occasions as well. Typically what brings them to blows is their different approaches to heroics. Daredevil tends to be a bit more serious and often brutal in his tactics, I would say, while Spider-Man is more of a jokester whose approach to fighting crime is usually much lighter and usually less dark. Although, and I will say, both heroes also have their own moments of darkness as well as moments of levity. Number 3. The Punisher. Punisher doesn't really like most heroes to start off with, and when he actually started out in the comics, it was kind of as a foil and an antagonist for Spider-Man. He made his first appearance in issue number 129 of the Amazing Spider-Man series, and even was lined up to take a kill shot on the hero by the end of it. Ultimately, however, he didn't because he realized that Spider-Man was actually innocent of any wrongdoing and that he had been manipulated into fighting Spider-Man. Still, despite this, there have been many occasions where the two have actually come to blows. Typically, it's their different philosophies and perspectives on how best to hero that often cause tension between them. Number 2. Wolverine. Logan is probably one of the characters who is the most regularly annoyed by Spider-Man, and even then, these two have had quite a few team-ups in the past. Ultimately, what drives a wedge between them is the fact that they are so different, which is also often exacerbated by Wolverine's seemingly brash actions and also at times his comments towards MJ, or in some other universes, even his advances towards her. Number 1. Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly has been many things over the years, and as of most recently in the comics, he was known as the main villain of the Dark Web event. But that doesn't remove all the good he's done in the past as a hero. Ben Reilly is the clone of Spider-Man, and so you'd think that would make the two of them kinda like a family. But the reality is that Ben over time has become more and more jealous of the life that Peter has. A life that Peter has lived, but that Ben also remembers as his clone because he has Peter's memories. This has caused great animosity between them and is even a major motivation for Ben in the Dark Web event, where he acts as villain to Spider-Man. With the memories of Peter's life that were once also Ben's now gone, Ben blames Peter, becoming the villain known as Chasm, and is willing to even kill Peter to gain back these memories. Sure, I suppose he's less of a hero in this instance and as of recently in the comics as Chasm, but at one point he was very much a hero, and for that reason I'm gonna count him on this list. That's about it. I'll see you next time, but until then, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Whip the whip!